So I'm excited about decentralized education for a couple of reasons. The first is in traditional education, it's still very much tied to geography. Where you go to
Mm.
school is largely a function of where you were born and where you grow up. And we have the ability now to transcend that. You can learn from anyone in the world about anything. This is really exciting, for instance, if a child is maybe 8 years old, but they're ready to do math at a higher level, there's no reason they have to be in a class of other 8-year-olds, right?
Mhm.
They could be part of a group that's actually attuned to their interests and needs. So I think the main thing for me about decentralization is the fact that it can fit individuals and that people can find the options that really fit them the best without there just being one path that everyone is sort of shepherded into.
All right, guys, welcome back to a freshly minted edition of Phantom Edge. I have a very special guest today. He goes by Octopus, and we've been in chats since I've been in the space. And I know you've been in close contact with us here and there on a personal level. And I'm just excited to have you here, man. So, yeah, how are you?
I'm doing really well and I'm really excited to be here.
No, thank you, man. Thank you for sharing the time.
Thanks for
Um,
having me.
Of course. So to kick it off, man, the first question I want to ask is, you have a background in anarchism and fringe thinking. I'm curious to know what exactly that means, or a perspective you could share with us on how that looks like, and how long you've been in that scene.
Yeah, I guess since I was a small child, I was interested in why things were the way they were and what assumptions that rested on.
Hmm.
And I asked a lot of what if questions and was always probing and curious about how different structures worked. So I discovered anarchism as a young adult, working with some groups that were doing things in a decentralized way. This would have been back in like 2004, 2005. So that really exposed me to the idea that you don't have to have a traditional structure for an organization to work. So I was into decentralization a long time before I
Hmm.
was into cryptocurrency.
Yeah. Interesting. I like how you mentioned that you've been in decentralization before cryptocurrency. So very interesting. And yeah, I think that was pretty impressive. And it makes sense. Having some chats with you before, I know that you push forward and always ask critical questions, which I think is a valuable skill that anybody should inherit. I know you have a vast experience in traditional academia, right? Now you're in this arena of decentralized education. I want to know what kind of made you jump in here into this decentralized education arena, and what are some insights that you took from traditional academia, and what you hope to change.
I really had a great experience in traditional academia in a lot of ways. I really liked my experience of earning advanced degrees and the people that I got to work with. But there was always this tension because at the end of the day, usually I was working for a government,
Mm.
and that sort of ran counter to my more individualistic beliefs. So I'm excited about decentralized education for a couple of reasons. The first is in traditional education, it's still very much tied to geography. Where you go to
Mm.
school is largely a function of where you were born and where you grow up. And we have the ability now to transcend that. You can learn from anyone in the world about anything. This is really exciting, for instance, if a child is maybe 8 years old, but they're ready to do math at a higher level, there's no reason they have to be in a class of other 8-year-olds, right?
Mhm.
They could be part of a group that's actually attuned to their interests and needs. So I think the main thing for me about decentralization is the fact that it can fit individuals and that people can find the options that really fit them the best without there just being one path that everyone is sort of shepherded into.
Absolutely.
In
I
terms
think.
of what I gained, like about teaching, I love teaching, but the biggest thing that I've learned about teaching is that it really is not so much about delivery of content or practice of skills
Mm.
as it is about shared experience.
Mm.
So we go through something together. We go through this journey together. And to the extent that we go to the same places and see the same interesting things, I think that's effective education, not, I show you this, you do this in the same way. There are places where that's important. Um,
Hmm.
but I think the biggest part of education is difficult to transmit just on paper. It really is an embodied person to person thing.
I've never really thought about it that way. Now that you say it, shared experiences, because you know, someone who creates content, one thing I focus on is delivery, right? Delivery of information, even if it's opinion based, but how is that person consuming it, right? So now that you say that, you know, shared experience, I kind of added that. I'm gonna ponder on that a lot. So thanks for sharing that. The next question I have for you is, I know you do a lot of work for token engineering. I would like for you to kind of talk about what exactly is token engineering, who is it for, and what's your role over there?
Yeah, so I've been working with Token Engineering Academy for about a year and a half, and our latest project was the Token Engineering Fundamentals course, which you can access at tokenengineering.net. Token engineering is a way of looking at cryptocurrency and tokenomics through an engineering lens, which means making it rigorous and applicable. And often it's about making quantitative models. Basically, engineers, I'm not an engineer by training, I'm a mathematician.
Hmm.
But engineers, where they excel, in my opinion, is they have these excellent tools for organizing and transmitting information, things like project management, things like project planning, requirements gathering, knowing what to do if there's not an exact equation to still get an idea of the answer. Testing things
Hmm.
is a big part of engineering. So taking those practices and applying them to the design of tokens and questions about cryptocurrency is the discipline of token engineering. I'm really excited about the token engineering fundamentals course. I learned a lot in creating it because I
Hmm.
had to research a lot of these engineering practices,
Hmm.
and the new version just came out, and I think there's a lot of valuable information in it. So I'd encourage anyone who's interested to check it out.
Awesome. Is it kind of a follow-up question to that? Is it kind of like highly technical, or can someone like me who's not technical still kind of get exposed to new information and get their hands dirty?
So it varies by module. There are two
Mhm.
modules there's one module about math, which is not, it's just, it stops at calculus one, but you have to solve some equations.
Mm.
There's a module about programming where you have to write some code. There are three other modules, though, that are less technical, that are about things like governance structures. Jessica Zartler wrote that one, did an excellent job. There's one about the overall practice of token engineering, and there's one about system design, which is, um, it's not mathematical, but
Mhm.
you still have to be rigorous. So I think people confuse technical with rigorous, right?
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
can be very careful in your thinking about something, but you may not have any numbers anywhere in the picture.
Mhm.
So the discipline of token engineering, I would say, is always rigorous, and there are some parts of it where it's kind of unavoidably technical.
Good. That's good to know then. The last question I have for you is, what are you bullish on for this year and for the years ahead in terms of crypto and the Web3 space?
I'm very bullish about a couple of things. One is sort of transcending meat space. I think that the big innovation of the last few years has been really people being able to view themselves and look at their identities in a digital world in a different way.
Hmm.
So I go by Octopus, and I'm face doxed and voice doxed, but there are lots of people who are coming up who they've never presented themselves publicly as anything but a Twitter profile picture. And now with AI, they can have a voice that they choose. They can have a face that they choose.
Hmm.
There's a writing from the '90s, old school cypherpunk, called Declaration of Independence of Cyberspace.
Hmm.
And basically, it's written from the perspective of the internet, telling traditional governments, you do not rule this world.
Hmm.
This cyberspace world is a different place, and you have no authority here. And I think we're really going to see a lot of tension surrounding that over
Hmm.
the next decade. But I think that it's ultimately going to be a really wonderful thing to watch as the true potential of the internet to transcend traditional nation states really
Hmm.
comes into view. And of that, then I'm is a lot of governance questions, which are not very exciting because you can't really attach a dollar value to governance.
Hmm.
But if you think about things like, so right now, Gitcoin DAO
Yeah.
is having a question of if someone wants to redo a vote, what's the procedure for that?
Hmm.
And that's a key question for DAOs. So I think that those kinds of things will have influence for hundreds of years, like important court cases or laws in the past.
Hmm.
So I'm really excited to see those structures that emerge in this digital world of governance.
Awesome. Yeah, I think DAOs are a very interesting use case in the space, right? It's specifically for governance and communities coming together to either, create a workforce too, because I know a lot of DAOs are implementing that sense of workforce that you could work from anywhere, autonomous, obviously, contribute, get rewarded for it. So yeah, it's gonna be very exciting to see what happens there. But I do kind of see what you mean by the tension. So we'll have to wait and find out. But thank you so much, Octopus, for sharing some time with me. It's been an honor to have you here, and I know for sure it's not going to be the last time. So I hope to see you here again soon.
Yes, I'm looking forward to seeing you again soon, and thank you so much again for having me.
Of course. Until next time, my man.